Hello, everybody.
Good afternoon, Professor.
I'm back in Harlem. Whoops, hold on a second. All right, cool. I had some music playing as I let you all into the class. That happened to be, I think it was Frank Sinatra, and then it was going into Madonna. I'm playing just a random playlist on Amazon. So I hope you're all well, and we are now back here in on the Wednesday. So thank you. Good afternoon to everybody. It is the Wednesday before our spring break, and we get a spring break next week. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. At this point, everybody who got me the assignment, with the exception of 2 students before noon on Monday, even like right now, Elizabeth, I think was the last one, got a response. So you should check your Blackboard so you can see your response to it. I'm going to talk a little bit about the assignment now. The other 2 students that have not responded to, I will respond today. When the class is over, I'm just going to stay in this chair and finish you all. If any of you have it and upload it, I will definitely take a look at it. I'm going to be grading from now until Friday, grading things. So also, if you have any assignments that you owe, you should get them in ASAP, because I will grade them from now till Friday. After Friday night, Friday at 5, I will be offline. I will have some other stuff that I will do, but in terms of, I'll be offline. Okay, so you should make sure you get any assignments or anything's in, so I can see them and grade them. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the assignment that you had to do about character analysis. That's 1. 2, we're going to speak a little bit more about, we're going to review forgiveness. And then I'm going to end with us talking about the essay that will be due on April 12th, right? I think that's the right date. Yes, April 12th, Monday, April 12th, which is a new deadline, which is different from the syllabus. I think the syllabus has the 7th. So we moved it to Monday the 12th. And I did that a little bit on purpose so that you would not, I'm trying to give you all a spring break. So at least from my class, that you actually get a chance to take a break. I mean, I think, even if you have to work or, some of you I know have families or have kids, but that, I know schoolwork is an added responsibility. But if you can find some time, even if it's a day, even if it's something to do with your family or with a best friend or with somebody you are involved with, that you find some time to decompress, to relax, to reflect. I mean, some of us, I admit I do work as well on spring break because I try to use it to catch up on things. But I always try to make it time to relax, because it's really important that we do that. And I think the pandemic has shown us how important it is that our well-being is important to navigate. So do that. All right, let me talk a little bit about the assignment. So you were asked to basically do a character analysis. And so bravo to most of you who have done it, or bravex, I could say, to most of you who were able to complete the assignment. Because it's taking you, whenever you do the assignments, right? Basically, it's giving you an opportunity to practice, right? So that when you do the actual paper, that's not what you're practicing on. You've done the practice beforehand, and when you do the paper, you're putting yourself in the best position to get a good grade. So you may not decide to do a character analysis, but if you look at my comments really quickly, I said good structure, good sentence, where's the thesis, so that it's still an essay. Even though it's short, it's still an essay. So look at the comments so you can see what you did good, and if there's something that needs attention, that you can put attention to whatever needs the attention. So when you submit your paper on April 12th, that it's the best paper that you can submit, right? So yeah, so great that most of you. So here are the strengths of the assignments that many of you. That most of you were able to. The idea was very focused, right? Because I think a lot of times when you're talking about literature, sometimes you want to talk about, you can talk about the story, you can talk about the characters, you can talk in a broad sense, but it's important to be able to focus, right? And in the focus sometimes is where some of the learning happens, right? So, like for instance, I thought one of you were exploring Tammy, and it was really interesting because Tammy, and I think a couple of you did, talked about Tammy, and Tammy is the girlfriend, right? The girlfriend that is, that is there for Rafa, and Rafa could be what Rafa is. Rafa is a handful, right? Rafa is, one of you described him as toxic masculinity. Some of you described him as spoiled and getting away with I put the words getting away with murder, but he's a really tough character. And Tammy is actually, in her life, is better off without him, right? But she has this kind of unexplained devotion to him, and they share a connection. And so it's important to observe that, right? And but we're also like saying, like, why do you think Juno Diaz created the character of Tammy, and why did he put her in there? Like, what's her, and we see this, like, there's moments where you're like, he did what to her? And she still goes back to him, and she's the one who actually, ironically, is the savior at that moment in the story when Junior has him in a shopping cart because Pura won't give them the keys to the car. And we lost them, she says, right? But we know she didn't lose them. She knew that if they got the keys, then she'd lose the car, right? They wouldn't come back. So but when he gets back, Tammy's there, and Tammy's one that takes him to the hospital and essentially, saves his life for the moment, right? Because as he says in the beginning, que Rafa estaba jodido, right? He was screwed. Um, and but it's good to observe what a character is and what their role is, but then sometimes also thinking about their purpose, and also thinking about what the writer might be making a statement, or maybe saying something about this type of woman, or maybe about the devotion that two people have that could be unexplainable, right? Because Junior just doesn't understand how they could just sit and stare at each other in the car, and then later on she just parks and he just stands at the screen and they look at each other. That there is this connection that is unusual, unlike any of the other women in his life, right? So and then you, of course, are human beings, and you can form your own opinions and how you feel about it, or you agree or disagree, etc. So bravex to those of you who did the assignment and were very good with sticking to the character, very good with going into an analysis from a particular lens that you could look at them, their role, looking at their personality. Some of you combine some of these things inside of it, which is perfectly okay. And the important thing is to really stick to one character, to stick to the character. Because sometimes it's difficult because they intersect with other characters. And sometimes what another character does impacts this character, So of course you will be speaking to other people, but it's important to always bring it back to, if it was the mother or Tammy or Pura, whoever you were discussing in the essay, that you stick to that. So good job with that. And if any of you want to take a stab, you still have today, you have tomorrow. Like I said, I'll be grading on and off. And my goal is to grade till Friday, at least. I'm definitely taking this weekend to do some relaxing on my own. I was in Philly visiting a friend, but that was more of us taking care of each other. And this week, and I'm going to go upstate to a different place and do some reflecting, and maybe even get a massage or something. So do something good for my body and my mind. Okay, so any questions? Any questions about yes, I think Catherine, I think you just submitted yours, right? So I'm gonna take a look at yours today, Catherine. I'm going to. Okay, so just so you know, with the reply, yeah, okay, last night you did it, cool. Yeah, I'll take a look at it though, either way. With the revise, what I'm doing is, and this time it might, the other thing you might see will be different is that usually I take it, I make it a what is it, Google Doc. But since many of you did it in Word, I basically did it in Word. I responded in Word. So I just took it, because Word has the same capability of, it's just a different feature in Word. It's called track changes. And maybe what I'll do is maybe I can find one and I'll open it. Maybe I'll do that later before when I talk about the essay, I'll do that. I'll find one and then I'll show you how, because I show you how track changes work, how the comments work in Google Doc, and I'll show you how it works in this. So Tizella, it should. So if you did it, I basically just uploaded. I attached the document to it. So if you have Word, you should be able to open it up. If you don't have Word, then that might be a problem. So let me know. But I figured if you submitted it in Word, I can get it back to you in Word. And I think some of you who did it in sent it as a PDF. I convert the PDF into Word. So if you are unable to open a Word document, I can then take that Word document and make it um, whatchamacallit, um, a Google Doc. So that way you can have a Google Doc. Okay. So I'll do that later. So Viviano, yeah. So I'm not sure when you say you can't see yours, let me just do this for a minute. I'm going to share my screen, right? So if I go into Blackboard, right, and I go to discussions, right, and then if you go to, here's the assignment, it's right at the top, right, because we don't have a new assignment. There's Catherine, there's all these people. Viviano's here. So if I go to Viviano, what you should see is this. Here are my comments, and you should see a Word doc. In the same way that you uploaded this Word doc, this PDF, oh, yours might be the situation that if you don't have Word. So if you don't have Word, then that's different. Then just reply, say, I don't have Word, and I can send it to you as a Google Doc. So it's a link to it. But normally you should be able to click it. And in my computer, I'm using um, a PC. I'm not using a Mac. So I click it, and in my PC, it automatically brings it down here, downloads it, and then I can look for it in the folder, and then I would open it, right? And if I have Word, I click it, and Word opens up, and then the document opens up, and then you'll see, corrections there. You'll see my comment at the bottom, and that's what you should experience. So if you don't have access to Word, then that's different, right? Then I'm sending you a Word document, and you can't open it. So that's different than not being able to see it. So Viviano, I hope you could. I did yours on purpose so that you could see. You should be able to see the document there. If you're able to open it when you click it, that's a different issue. But not being able to see it, that means to me, it means like that it's not there. So, which could be, which could also be the case of just Blackboard, because I know it's different when you use your phone as opposed to when you use a computer. So with what I just did, Viviano, I'm just responding to and the same thing to who else? Somebody said Tizella. Yeah. So, and then if I share my screen again, I mean, not to, this is not what I'm saying. I was going to say putting anybody on blast, okay? Because, you can go there, you can see it yourselves, you can see who submitted and who didn't. But if we go to the assignment, this is who presented it. Let's see, Tizella is the first one. And so she's saying she can't see it. So it should be the same thing. If you submitted it as a docs, I'm assuming you have docs and you should be able to click it. I say, here are my comments, and then you click it. And when you click it, you should be able to download it or see it. Like I've just downloaded yours and opening it. And then you should be able to see yours, like this with my comment on it. Okay. So, so it's different if you can't see it. That means there's nothing there. Sometimes what does happen, I'm just going to go here. Sometimes it might automatically collapse, like you don't see it like that. So you should kind of hover, and then you'll see something that says expand, and you open it, and then it shows you all the information that's there. So you should be able to find it that way, and then click it and open it. So again, if you don't have Word, of course, then you might have trouble. It may not open automatically for you, and I can either I think in Word, let me just try this a second. Let me see if somebody's document is open. Yeah, let me see. No, that's not a good example because I want to see if it has comments. Oh yeah, let me just do Tizella. Let me see if I do file, if I save it as a PDF. I just want to see if it saves it as a PDF. Does it save all the comments? I know the problem with the, yeah, it doesn't. So yeah, the problem with saving it back as a PDF, it doesn't save the comments. I have to figure out how to, unless somebody knows how to do that. When I have a Word document that has, I'm not sure, am I sharing my screen? No, I'm not, okay. When I have a Word document that has the comments, not only in the text, but on the side, and I want to save it as a PDF so that it saves the whole thing. I don't see how every time I go to save it, it saves it as something else. Let me see if I do something. One more thing. I'm going to try one more thing. Print. And I'm going to say. Let me try that. I'm trying one other thing to see if that works. Anyway, I'm not going to spend any more time trying to figure that out, but I just want to make sure you're able to see them. So, if you're able to, maybe in the next, maybe I'll just pause a minute and I'll pause a minute and see if. Okay, I found out how to do it. So Viviano and let me see, Taizela, you submitted yours as a Word. You should be able to see it. So I just take a minute or take 2 minutes. I'm gonna pause. Let's see, I can see mine. I see my comments now. Okay, you see it now? Okay, good. All right. Yeah, I found out a way to save Word documents with the comments because somehow there's a little feature where you say print with markup, and so it'll print it with all the changes. Okay, cool. Let's see. There's one more message. I just saw you commented on mine. I clicked on the link and I don't see no comments on the Word doc. So there's two things. You should scroll to the bottom and you should see me writing. It just might be a sentence or two, right? Because if there weren't a lot of changes or a lot of if there weren't a lot of changes, then you wouldn't see a lot of comments, right? So, but if you see absolutely nothing on the bottom and nothing anywhere, then that's different, right? So, yeah, I mean, some of the papers, I mean, some of you wrote really good papers. I mean, like there were like no typos, maybe there was like a quotation mark that was missing. So, that's a good thing. Okay. So, yeah, it's 12:53. I'm gonna pause for 2 more minutes and let people take a look if you submitted it, aside from Catherine and one other person, and Adrian, I think, the two that need to be done. As you could, you guys won't have your comments because I haven't commented on it yet, so I will comment later. So I'm going to just wait another minute so people could take a look at them, make sure they could at least open them. If I comment on it after class, or if you submit it and I comment on it tomorrow or something like that, and you can't do it, definitely email me or definitely write in that in Blackboard to me in that little section like if you're having trouble, because I'm happy to either meet up with you. I mean, Zoom a meeting to make sure that you can see it, or I can email it, or we could figure out what the situation is. And while I'm giving you that minute to look, let me get forgiveness up and we can talk about forgiveness. Okay. All right, Tazella, if you want, you can wait. Oh, wait. Let me admit. Yeah, I'm not following why you can't. So what I'll do is I'll try emailing it to you, but if I open up Blackboard and you open up Blackboard and you see it, we should figure out like why you can't open it. You know, nothing shows up. Okay. All right. All right. So let's dive into forgiveness for a little bit. So before we even go into that, like, what is forgiveness? Tell me. You could write in the chat, unmute, and tell me, what is forgiveness? What is to give forgiveness? What does that mean? Any thoughts? Have any of you been in the position to give forgiveness to somebody? Or, okay, here we go. You're responding. Okay, when you basically accept someone's apology, okay, to show someone you are giving them another chance. Yep. To forgive is to move on from something. Yep. And then that means that you accept apology, someone's apology for what they have done, right? All good elements of what is forgiveness, right? Because I think, if you think of the act of forgiveness, right, there is somebody that did something to someone else that they experience as harmful or wrongdoing, and then that person who did the wrongdoing has to either ask for forgiveness, or the person that the wrongdoing to whom it has been done has to give forgiveness, right? And then Lindsay was saying that it's forgive us to move on from something, right? So there's an act of like, let's just use fidelity, because that usually in relationships is like a hot button, like somebody who cheats, right? So like right now on my computer, I mean, I put it in speaker view, but I think because I'm the speaker, I do in speaker view because when we're recording it, I think if I forget to do that, then we see little tablets. But if I keep put in speaker view, then I think I'm the biggest image. But when I'm giving class and I do speaker view, I think the last person who spoke is the image that I see, the big image. And right now, what I see is a giant photograph of Coral Gutierrez with heart-shaped sunglasses. So I'm going to use Coral as my example. So like let's say, let me see this. Forgiveness is understanding that there are mistakes to be made and corrected. Yes, definitely, Kayla. Good observation with that. And so let's say Coral and I are in a relationship, right? And I cheat on Coral. And so now I have done something that betrays our relationship and betrays Coral, betrays our trust, right? And so I have to ask for her to forgive me. And now she's in the position of saying, I will either forgive you or I can't forgive you. I can't, right? And meaning that she is not going to give me a pass. She's not going to, or that she will, right? Lindsay added is to move on. So the idea, what's implied in forgiveness is that not only are you acknowledging that that person has offered to do something different, right? Maybe we hope that, but that you will move on from it, right? And so sometimes the idea of forgive and forget are linked together. The forgetting is part of forgiving, like not looking back, not bringing it up. So if I go back to the example of Coral and I, if Coral has said, of Coral, sorry, I don't know if you go Coral, but if Coral said, okay, I forgive you. Let's put this situation behind us. So there is an understanding that if I am truly remorseful from it, that I will never do it again, right? I will never do that again. Like I understand that the consequences would be that Coral could leave me, Coral could leave me, or that, I don't know what could happen, right? But it's not good. So, but I think one of the things that happens is that we're human beings, right? And so we may be able to get past something, and actually we even have the capacity to forget something, right? Because you forget this, you forget your car keys, you forget, you have an appointment. Oh my God, I completely forgot the appointment, right? But we have the capacity to forget and to put things out of our heads. But sometimes with these kinds of things, sometimes it's hard in terms of forgiveness to forgive and forget, right? So what do you think? Do we think it's important to forget as that forgive and forget are important to come together. And I maybe will start with, in terms of like pushing Lindsay a little bit, because Lindsay wrote to move on, right? That there is and some things are not so easy to forget, right? Okay. Yeah, it's true. I think some things are not easy to forget, but what do we do with the fact that we remember? So if I go back to Carl and I, if I'm at a party and I'm talking to somebody in a corner, Carl can't be coming up to me and saying, what the hell are you doing? Or when we get home, why were you talking to that person in the corner? And I was like, we're just having a conversation, right? Is Coral forgetting? It's important to forgive, but not forget. All right. So Adrian says it's important to forgive and not forget. And why do you say that?
Well, I say that because like sometimes the person do something like so bad to you that you don't trust that person anymore. So sometimes you forgive the person for what they done, but like you don't forget what they did to you. So I think it's important to forgive to have a peaceful mind, to have like your mind clean, in peace. But like you will never forget what have they done to you.
Mhm. It's a good point. I mean, you brought up two important things that's wrapped into forgiveness. I put the word trust because I heard you say trust. Like sometimes if you don't trust that person, then sometimes depending on what is done to you, sometimes that erodes the trust, right? And 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 then you were also talking about how important that sometimes forgiveness isn't about the other person. Sometimes forgiveness is something you need to do for yourself, right? To have a clean mind, to find peace, that you have to find a place of forgiveness. Christian is saying that he doesn't think you can truly forgive unless you forget, right? And Lindsay says, I think it's important to never forget to avoid making the same mistakes, right? Yes, right. But so that's an interesting balance, right? So it's very interesting that Rebecca Brown's piece ends, the last line says, I will never believe in the myth of forgiveness, right? It's a powerful line, right? I will never believe in the myth of forgiveness. That in that story, she is saying, in a way, that forgiveness is a myth. That, can you forgive somebody? What does it truly mean to forgive somebody? And we'll read the ending of the story together a little bit. But yeah, it raises a big question. So in Rebecca Brown's story, we began, right? We read a little bit of it in class on Monday. And she starts out with like this idea, right? This figure of speech, like, I will give my right arm for you, right? I love you so much. I will give my right arm for you, right? And so, and she makes it literal. The person says, oh, really? Give me your arm. And they're like, all right, you really want it? They're like, yeah. You said you love me so much, you give me your arm, give it to me. And so they proceed to cut the arm off, right? She makes it literal, right? And then they go through this whole thing. We read this in class, right? They put it in the bathtub, it's bleeding, she's bleeding, the person's bleeding, they're in bed, they get blood on the bed, then the person gets annoyed, right? But then the person takes the arm and goes to have it bronzed, right? So bronze, if anybody doesn't know, like to bronze something is it's an activity. They used to do this a lot with baby shoes, right? Your first pair of baby shoes, your parents would send them away, and some company would cover them in bronze, and they would come back as these little, on a little pedestal, this bronze sculpture. And you could do that with things. You could have things bronzed, right? You can. If I love this coffee mug so much, I could maybe have it bronzed, and they could send it out to be bronzed. Or, if I had, some other object that I could have bronzed, they could do that. But instead, they had it bronze, they said, and they put it on top of the mantelpiece, right? And then if we follow the progression of the story, and we'll read some of it, we follow the progression of the story, what ends up happening is the person then leaves the relationship and they take the arm. And the person left behind, the one-armed person, at first is like, what the heck? What happened? Right? And they start missing the person and longing for that person. And they go in search of that person. Then they go in search of their arm. Like, where's the arm? Maybe they pawned it. And they go to pawn shops, right? In the meantime, the person is learning to live with one arm, right? Getting stronger, learning how to open the door, learning how to take care of themselves. Then there's another phase in this where the person said, oh, wait, maybe this is a test. Maybe you took my arm and you left me and you disappeared with the bronzed arm, and only because you wanted to test me. So I'm going to show you how strong I can be. And then they even get stronger and stronger, right? And then their lives have changed, right? Now they're this different person. They've learned to live without the arm, and they learn to be productive. And then the person comes back into their lives, right? And then there's the moment of the person asking for forgiveness so that I can come back into your life. And then it raises a question. They're like, wow, what do I do? And they bring the person back in, and they're trying to do that. But I think a little bit of what Lindsay was saying, and a little bit what Christian was saying in the chat, that they're having difficulty separating forgiving and forgetting. And they become, all right. And so it leads up to that ending of the story. So I'm going to go into the PowerPoint. So I'm going to share my screen in a minute. And by the way, all the stories for which we have PowerPoints are now up on the website. And of course, all the classes all the recordings are up to date as well on the website. So I share that with you. Okay, so here we go. Share, right? I don't want to do that. Done. I want to do present. Okay. So here we go. Can you forgive? Right? Big question. Can you forgive? Can you forgive? So Forgiveness by Rebecca Brown. I think we went a little bit about Rebecca. I'm going to make this small so we spoke a little bit about her. She's done a lot of great stuff. I mentioned that she was my professor when I did my MFA, right? And she's written several short story collections, several novels. And this story, Forgiveness, is in a short story collection called The Terrible Girls. And it's also won a lot of awards. We talked about her work, right? About the idea of the tip of the iceberg, right? That she's talking about one thing, like this idea of forgiveness, but it's like beneath the surface, there's all this other stuff going on, right? You know, beyond the surface of this relationship, there's a lot happening. Beyond the surface of this idea, of this simple idea, right? In a way, of forgiveness, that there is more at play, there's more happening, right? Iceberg. So we spoke a bit about how do you understand the term forgive and forget, right? And you did a great job of mentioning different ways that you do that. So here is like, what is forgiveness? Psychologists generally define forgiveness as a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance toward a person or group who has harmed you, regardless of whether they actually deserve your forgiveness, right? So it goes back to the idea that Christian was talking about, Adrian, sorry, was talking about, that sometimes you need to do this for yourself, right? Maybe they don't deserve your forgiveness, but it's something that you need to do, right? And here it says forgiveness as a conscious, right, deliberate, on purpose decision that a person makes, right, to release feelings of resentment or vengeance. Like you don't feel resentment, you don't feel like hate or anger or vengeance, meaning I want to get you back, toward a person or a group who has harmed you, right, regardless of whether they actually deserve your forgiveness, right? So it's interesting, this definition. So if any of you are interested in more of this idea of forgiveness and want to dive deeper, this came from, I put a link here. That's the website from which it came from, and you can learn more about the idea of forgiveness from there. So her writing style, we'll talk a little bit about that, right? We said her neo-Gothic sensibility reduces narrative to its essence and insists on the literal dimension of figurative language. So she is playing with a lot of things, right? She begins with almost a figure of speech. I love you so much, I will cut my right arm off for you. And then she goes into this kind of gruesome Gothic way of describing like what happens to this. Like even if we have to pause logic for 5 minutes because like how do two people do it? Like, you know, it's just crazy. Like get a saw, like anesthesia, you know, bend the blood. I don't know. It's just, but she's not into that. She's writing this story from this perspective, and she's kind of playing with this idea of this Gothic, of the macabre, right? And in doing so, she, is working with language in that way. She's doing something literal, right? The literal dimension of figurative language, right? The literal dimension, right? So she makes it literal of figurative language, of a figurative phrase, right? So the plot, we talked about what happens, right? Lovers cut off the arm of one. The lover with both arms takes the severed arm after it has been bronzed and abandons the relationship. The one-armed lover searches for the arm, but learns to live without it. The lover returns without the arm and asks for forgiveness, right? And then the last line is in forgiveness is, I'll never believe in the myth of forgiveness between us, right? The myth of forgiveness between us. So I'm going to stop sharing a moment because I'm going to open the story and read a little bit of the story so we can hear some of it in the class. I'm going to particularly focus on the end of the story. 1 second, oops. And let's see. I have so many tabs open. I have to learn to close all these tabs. So I'm usually working right up until class time. But, oh wait. Am I in the right? Oh, I didn't. Oh yeah, it's here. Okay, yeah. No, for a minute I was like, what happened to the PowerPoints? But I see them all here. All right, here we go. Forgiveness. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna read at the end. The ending of it. Let me share my screen so you can see what I'm reading. So this is the next to last page. And this is when the person with the arm who returns back to the relationship, right? It says, I'm going to start here. My beautiful empty sleeve and I were friends, like intimates, right? The middle of the next to last page. So everything was fine for a while. Then you came back. Then everything did, right? So then you came back and then everything came back, right? Suddenly the person had moved on from that and that person came back and then everything came back, right? And then it says, but I was careful. It had been a long time. I had learned to live. Why? Hadn't I just forgotten what used to fill my empty sleeve entirely? I was very careful. I acted like nothing had ever been different, that you had never ripped it out of me, then bronzed it, put it on a mantle, left with it. I wanted to stay forgot. I wanted things to stay forgot. Besides, it was so easy, so familiar having you around. It was nice. I determined to hold on to what I'd learned about the strength of having only one. Maybe I should have told you then. Maybe I should have told you then, but then I told myself, I just let someone in, but then I told myself, I'm sorry, I'm right here. I just got distracted because somebody was coming into class. Maybe I should have told you then. Maybe I should have told you then, but then I told myself, if you knew to leave it alone, then good. And if you didn't know, we needed to find that out. So we were sitting in the den. You looked at me with your big, sweet, pretty brown eyes, and you said, you whispered it softly like a little girl. You said, oh, I'm sorry. You started crying softly, your lips quivering. Can you ever forgive me? You said it slow and sweet, like a foreign language. I watched you, knowing you knew the way I was watching you. You leaned into me and pulled my arm around you and ran your pretty fingers down the solid muscle in my sleeve. Just hold me, darling, you said. Just hold me again. I ran my wet palm, shaking on your gorgeous back. Your hair smelled sweet. I looked at your beautiful tear-lined face and tried to pretend that I had never seen you before in my life. Why did you do it? I whispered. You looked at me, your eyes all moist and sweet, like you could melt anything in the world. You didn't answer. What did you do with it? You shrugged your shoulders, shook your head, and smiled at me sweeter than an angel. Say something, I whispered into your pretty face. Say something, goddammit. You looked at me and your sweet brown eyes welled up with tears again. You put your head against my breast and sobbed. You made me rock you, and I did. And then you cried yourself to sleep as innocent as a baby. When you were asleep, I walked you to the bedroom and put you to bed. You slept. I watched you all night. You remembered nothing in the morning. In the morning, we had coffee. You chatted to me about your adventures. You cocked your head at just the right places, the way I remembered you did. You told me you'd worked hard in the time you had been away. You told me how much you had learned about the world, about yourself, about honor, faith, and trust, etc. You looked deep into my eyes and said, I've changed. You said how good and strong and true and truly different you were. How you had learned that it is not our acts, but our intents that make us who we are. I watched your perfect teeth. I felt your familiar sweet hands run up my body over the empty sleeve that rumpled on the exposed side of me. I closed my eyes and couldn't open them. My mouth was closed. I couldn't tell you anything. I couldn't tell you that you can't redo a thing that's been undone. I couldn't tell you anything that you would understand. I couldn't tell you that it wasn't just the fact that you had ripped it out of me and taken it and mounted it, then left with it, then lost it. How it wasn't only that, but it was more. How it was that when you asked me, I believed you and I told you yes. How though I had tried a long time to replace what you had hacked away from me, I never could undo the action of your doing so, that I had and only ever would have more belief in your faulty memory, your stupid, sloppy foresight, than in your claims of change. How I believed, yes, I believed with all my heart that given time, you do something else again, some new and novel variant to what you had done to me again. And then I thought, but this was only half a thought, that if you had changed, no, really changed, truly and at last, and if you knew me better than I know myself, and even if I'm better off than I've ever been, and even if this was the only way we could have gotten this special place where we are now, and even if there's a reason, darling, something bigger than the both of us, and even if all these even ifs are true, that I would never believe you again. Never forget what I know of you. Never forget what you've done to me, what you will do. I'll never believe in the myth of forgiveness between us. Okay, that's the end of the story. I'm gonna stop the sharing, right, for a moment. Right, so she goes to this monologue at the end, this thing of like, she really thinks about it, or the character really thinks about it and goes through it, and they're like, I can't, because you're asking for forgiveness, but you're also not showing any remorse. And I can't do it because I'm afraid that, you know, I believe that you will do this again. Something else, maybe different, maybe not my other arm, but you will do something. And because I believe that and I feel that, I will never believe in the myth of forgiveness, right? So what do you all agree about the idea of the myth of forgiveness? What do you think about that phrase? Right? I'm seeing here. Sorry, I'm looking at your text, your chat. An arm for an arm, right? I think it's important to never forget to avoid. Okay, yes, different take, I suppose. What do you think of that? The story ends. You know, it's about a relationship, right? Intense. You can unmute or you can chat. Okay, to have this open. Here we go. Silence. Did my reading blow you away? You're like, what the hell? But woo, I'm joking. But yeah, it's a very, very powerful landing. So if you notice, I read it in a particular kind of way because again, Rebecca Brown, if we look at her style of writing, sometimes the way she uses or doesn't use punctuation in it, yeah, she refuses to forgive. She's unable. She feels like she cannot forgive, right? Alan wrote in the chat. But the way in which she writes, sometimes you have to read the syntax of it. And sometimes she doesn't use commas, where sometimes there could be a comma to give us a little more clarity of the meaning of this flow of thought. But it's like that. It's almost like a street. She does it on purpose, right? Because she's doing this is what the person's thinking. You know, you did this, and even if we had to get to the special place, even the only way we got here to be in a special place was that we had to go through all this. Even if all these even ifs she says are true, like I will never, I can never forget what you did, and um and I believe that you will do it again. I believe more in that than I do in forgiving. Clearly, if I just build off of Alan's phrase, he used an important word. He said refuses to forgive, right? So she is, in a sense, making a choice, right? She's making a choice not to really, that for her to forgive is to forget, and she's making that choice not to do that. So we can talk about like themes in this story, and we can talk about the relationship in this story. We can talk about we can have battles and debates about forgiving or not forgiving. I mean, if you can take this to all kinds of heights, right? There is, right, depending on sometimes your religious beliefs, that's like the foundation of religion, right? Forgiveness, right? Being able to forgive. So it's foundational. It's not a matter of that, right? There is, I think it's in the Old Testament that, like, if somebody smacks you, turn the other cheek, not like smack them back. It's not about revenge or like that. It's really like forgiveness. It's about this being able to take, as that definition says, whether the person deserves it or not, you're making the decision to not be resentful or vengeful, even though they may have done something, even though they did something to harm you. Right? It's powerful, the idea of forgiveness. There's a certain power in forgiving. So I don't want to just, stay with the position of the story, that we live in a world, right? And the story gives us an opportunity to talk about this idea of forgiveness. But this story also has something that you could write about. If you were going to write an essay, you could certainly write about forgiveness and as a theme, and how it looks in the story, right? And how at the beginning there's forgiveness and they cut the arm off and they're together and the person leaves and the person lets them back in, But you can talk about the theme of forgiveness. You can talk about her writing style, how she uses punctuation or not. But one of the things this story has is the arm. The arm is a powerful symbol in the story. So very often we will encounter symbols in a story, right? Something that could be a symbol. Like in cathedral, the clearly cathedral is symbolic of a religious place. It's a building, it's where people go to pray, where people have transformative experiences sometimes. You go to, depending on your church. I mean, that's what religion is, right? Religion is about you having an experience, right? Whether you have an awakening or you realize something, or you have a connection to a higher power. That's what that is. And so in cathedral, it's called cathedral because in a sense that's what happens to our main character. In this one, there's a different symbol. There's a symbol of the arm, right? The arm serves as a symbol. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint because I wrote some things down on it. There's 123, and I want to make sure I get through what we need to get through. So share screen. Okay, so here. So what does the arm symbolize in this story? So love, right? It was something they did together, right? Trust at the beginning. It was the idea of trust. If you're asking me for this, then I'm trusting that you really need this for some reason, and don't even let me know what the reason is. Let's just do it, baby, because I trust you, right? It also talks about sexuality, the social repercussions that was not normal, like the loyalty and the faithfulness, right? And the thing, self-esteem at some point because the person doesn't have their arm and they're trying to figure out life, health and well-being, right? Commitment, right? The idea of the arm was a commitment, right? Perseverance to say, I'm gonna get through this. It symbolizes the actual relationship itself. When the person's gone, the one with the one arm is searching for the arm. Are they searching for this relationship at the same time, right? And then I put trophy, importance, value, that is that as well, that she treats it like a trophy. When you bronze something, you put it over the mantle, it's to show it off, right? And you might feel like that's a prize. So it's symbolic of the loyalty of the relationship. But then what the person does is they take it, right? They leave with it. And then when the person says, what happened to my arm? They shrug their shoulder. They just say, I don't know, kind of like, I don't know what happened to it. So the value that it had was different from one person to the next, right? So we put here study questions because I add them, but she says in Forgiveness by Rebecca Brown, this is also, if you're looking for ideas, so inside of the PowerPoints, I put questions that you can entertain, right? You can use these questions as prompts to write your essay. So I put in Forgiveness by Rebecca Brown, and the antagonist makes a claim that it is not our acts, but our intentions that make us who we are, right? That is when the person comes back with having lost the arm, the person's like, what happened? Tell me. And then she says, it is not our acts, but our intentions that make us who we are. So what does she mean by this statement? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Right? Why? So it's saying it is not our acts. Like if you do something to harm somebody, saying, well, it's not what you did, is what I intended, is what I meant by it. That's what the person says. So it's not like that I lost the arm. It's not that I asked you for it, but the intention was, about loyalty and something like that. So, and then, so in this, what I just said, questions of support in class, what do you think the arm represents in Forgiveness by Rebecca Brown? I gave you that, but you might come up with other ones, other symbols that the arm has for the story. And do you think forgiveness is possible? Why not? We talked about that. And then so far, symbolism in the short stories we've read, Sticks by John Sonder, A&P, right? The Cathedral and Cathedral, in One of These Days, the tooth, remember it was symbolic, the rotten tooth and the corrupt politician. And in The Judge's Wife, Nicholas is that the symbolic characters in there. So just as you're looking for ideas on it, and so I'm gonna end with talking about the essay. So again, when we come back from spring break, we can talk more about the essay that is due on a week from the Monday after we get back. So as of today, we don't have class again until April 5th, right? So next week on Monday and Wednesday, this class does not meet. Ostos and CUNY, we are on spring break. So enjoy the week. And so we come back on the 5th, and I'm going to talk about, you won't have an assignment due on the 5th. You will have an assignment due on the 7th, right, which is Wednesday. So they give you an assignment due on the 5th. That means you have to work during spring break. So, but when we get back, we're going to be transitioning out of fiction and into theater, right? So, so you will have an assignment due on April 7th, and it will be, you have a choice. You could pick one of two stories to read to end off the semester. I could say one of three, but why don't we do one of three? So you're going to pick one story, and it's going to either be Everyday Use by Alice Walker. It's going to be Apollo by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I hope I didn't mess up her last name. I always sometimes forget the last name and the middle name. And the third story is well, there's actually, I'll just say you can pick any of the stories we haven't read because there's more stories in there. But you're gonna pick one story. I'm gonna give you one question, and then you will do that. But I'm giving you a heads up in case you want to read something. But I'm saying it's not an obligation for you to read over spring break. But so there's several other stories that are in the folder that we have not read. So you need to just pick one story we have not read, and you're gonna respond to that one question from that story. So I think the stories I started saying, there's Everyday Use by Alice Walker, there's Apollo by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie or Adichie Ngozi. There is What You Pawn Shall Redeem by Sherman Alexie, and there is A Good Man Is Hard to Find by Flannery O'Connor, I believe. Let me make sure that's right. And Shorty by Daisy Hernandez. So there's a couple of more stories in the folder, but you're going to pick one of them and you're going to read it, and then you're going to respond to the question that will be due on Wednesday. When we come back on spring break, we will do a transition. We're going to speak about the stories one day, and then we're going to begin the elements of theater the next day. And then we'll probably read a play together on the 12th when we get back. So your essay, also there will be a handout for your essay, but basically you could pick any of the stories that we've read in class, or any of the stories in our folder, and you can write an essay. It will be very much like what we have been working on. So it would have an intro, body, conclusion. The intro has a thesis statement with it. You will pick either themes or any elements, symbols, or any other elements that we can write about. You can do a character analysis. You can take the assignment that you did and expand it, develop it into an essay, like adding the other 2 more characters. You don't have to stick to the women, but you could do that. So you can do that. You could do a with cathedral. Trying to remember the assignment we did with cathedral. I can't remember off the top of my head. Let me take a quick look. You could build off of that assignment from cathedral. We had, I'm in our Blackboard right now. Oh yeah, so we do the same thing. So we've been focusing on character analysis, right? We did that with Cathedral. With The Judge's Wife, we looked at magical realism. So that's more of like a technique, right? In Sticks, we looked at, your assignment was about dramatic structure. So those are all options for you to craft your essay. You can pick it from any of those angles, any of those options. Yes, and so the actual story are in the folder, the fiction folder, and then in discussions, I'm going to do that before the break. I'm going to prepare the folder for you to upload your essays, and with the handout on it, but we'll review it when we get back. Okay. So in case, again, some of you want to use this to get a head start and get your fiction essay done before the 12th, you can use the time to do that as well. But that's on you. It's not due until the 12th. And, I'm encouraging you to have a spring break, okay? So any questions? Reactions? All right, then if not, it is 1:32, right? I'm looking at my clock, and if we're done, we're done. And have a great spring break. I look forward to seeing all of you when we get back. And certainly feel free to contact me. If you contact me over spring break, I will just say, I won't guarantee that I'll get back to you right away. But of course, I'm, particularly during the week, I'll be around. So if you have a question, if you have a concern during spring break, definitely do that. But if not, then enjoy yourselves, say good night, goodbye in the post. Tizella, I know you, so I'm just gonna send it to you via email, and I'll send you as a Word doc and as a PDF, and you should be able to open it one way or the other. But if you don't, by the end of the day, you still can't open it, just send me a note, okay? So everyone else, enjoy your afternoon, enjoy your weekend, enjoy your spring break. Thank you. Thank you. I'm saying thank you to the comments about having a good day. And all right, take care, Dana. Take care, everybody. Make sure you do your. Okay, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, Viviana, you could do your essay on this story. Yeah, very interesting writing style. I mean, I would recommend, if you like it, her books sometimes are also very small, so you can read. I love that you can read more of her work. All right, Rifat. but I'm not sure what you mean by your summary essay, Rifat. You mean the essay was the assignment that was due for the Buddha principle? Viviano, I have not listened to the song, but I will. I will. Okay, yeah. So I'll take a look at it. If you owe any assignments, please just upload them. This is a moment, you know, that also you can use to catch up. But upload them. I'll be checking things periodically, and yeah, I know you could laugh. I'm almost avoiding the song, but I will listen to it because I think it'll be educational for me to listen to the song.
Bye, Professor. Have a good day.
All right, Viviano, take care.
Thank you, Professor. Have a good day.
You're welcome, Christian. Take care.
Bye-bye.
When will you post the essay that we were just talking about that's due on the 7th in discussion?
Yeah, it's actually going to be due on the 12th, and I'll probably definitely by Friday at the latest. You know, maybe by tomorrow. But if what I want to do is grade your paper next, and one other person's, and I think some other folks are putting. So I want to grade all the Pura principal assignments first, and then I'll upload the. So if I get to do it, you know, tomorrow I'll do it, but if not, by Friday at the latest.
Okay, sounds good. Have a good day, Professor.
All right. Thanks, Catherine.
Hello.
Yep. Xavier.
Hi, Professor. I know I've been missing out on a few assignments. I was wondering if I still have time to work on those assignments.
Yes, you should do that. Definitely.
Yeah, because I had I don't know if you got my email. I had to go through a procedure. So that's why I've been showing up for like the classes for like the past 2 days, I believe.
Okay. All right.
So
Yeah.
so I just wanted to, let you know and stuff. That's why.
Okay. Yeah. I want to just say, let me just